Good evening, everyone. I have a weather update for you. I haven't done one of these in quite some time, and really, quite frankly, it's been quiet, as it usually is in the fall in the Ozarks. We had the last severe weather update, I think, was back in maybe September. And then, of course, about a year ago, we had a pretty active little snow pattern going on there for a while back in January and early February of last year. And that's kind of what's happening here tonight. We've got a couple of chances at some snow accumulation in the Ozarks, or at least some pretty good visuals of snow. One is tomorrow, and the other one is going into Monday and Tuesday. So, as I usually do with this, I start at the big picture, taking a look at the overall atmospheric flow. And what you're seeing right in front of you here is, just to give you a refresher course, this is 500 millibars, which means nothing to you, but it's about the middle of the troposphere, or the lower part of the atmosphere where all the action is, all the weather is. So looking at this and looking at the energy patterns, which is what these colors that you see on the screen are, is a good way to peg storms and disturbances in the atmosphere. So this is a computer model valid right about as I'm recording this, which is between 6 and 7 here this evening. About 6 o'clock actually. And so the first thing you'll notice there is that sort of cluster of color there. If we were to go ahead and mark where I am, I'm going to turn the camera off here and just go ahead and highlight some things. So we here in Springfield are right there. X marks the spot. Okay, so I'm talking about this disturbance right here that's kind of swinging around. And as it does so, it's going to produce precipitation. Now, it's going to bump into the remnants of some cold air across southwest Missouri. And the current thinking is that tomorrow morning, that we will have some snow here, as the profile, I think, in the atmosphere will support that. The ground's going to be still pretty warm, and so I don't think we're going to get a lot of sticking, and the snowfall rate is not forecast to be all that heavy. So for that reason, I wouldn't worry too much about tomorrow morning. We are on break for school for the most part, so that's not really too much of a concern right now. But before I go on and talk about the details of this smaller disturbance, let me just go ahead and fast forward. This is a computer model. This is called the GFS. It's one of the long range models we look at. And we have to still look at the long range because the next event that I'm talking about, which is potentially the bigger one, is just out of reach of the shorter range models. So we have to use these longer range ones. But let me show you here. I'll just kind of advance this as we go through. And so this is what's going to happen. This is basically during the day on Friday. The atmosphere is going to warm as the storm passes through. That's why I think any snow that starts in the morning will either mix or change over to rain. As we go through the weekend, we do have a disturbance going south of us. That's this area that I'm talking about right here. But the moisture will be somewhat tapped at that point, and it will be south of us. I don't really expect any major precipitation out of that. And then the big kahuna is right in here. If you've watched these before, you know what I'm talking about. We're looking to the west coast here to see this disturbance right here, which is digging very deeply and will wind up to be a pretty good, darn good storm in the central U.S. I'll just keep advancing this here, and this is going to be how it should look on Monday morning with that, and about the same position as this weaker little disturbance I just got through showing you is right now, only it's a lot more complex, a lot deeper, and frankly a lot larger. So that pulls into the plains here. So initially this is going to be Monday night. So this right here is where we're wondering, I thinking that across southwest Missouri, at least the majority of southwest Missouri, this is going to start as rain. But the back end of it, right in through here, that is Tuesday during the day, morning and day, that is going to be snow. So I just want to give you kind of a brief overview of what all of that looks like. Now let's switch over to radar here real quick, and I can show you what's going on right at this hour. So we'll just kind of put that into motion here. And you can see that already we're seeing precipitation show up through Oklahoma and through Texas. That's this area right in through here. And that is what's going to slowly kind of advance across the area like this through the overnight hours and into tomorrow morning. A pretty straightforward cycle of precipitation connected with this type of disturbance. And I'll go back to the models one more time, and we'll switch gears a little bit here. What I'll do is just kind of zoom in on our sector to include Missouri. There we go. So now what we're looking at is we sit right here, here in southwest Missouri. So I'll change the product too, and I'll show you precipitation type. That's a good place to start here. So that's the storm that we expect on Tuesday. So let's back up. So this is tonight. So you see that precipitation overtaking the Ozarks. So this is tomorrow morning at about 6 a.m. The blue is snow, and then it gets a lot lighter as it pushes into the state and kind of dissipates and spreads out a little bit. Then we get a drier slot of air, and then maybe some more precipitation, but very light. Like I said, that disturbance is passing south of us, but we don't have a lot to work with. So any precipitation that occurs Saturday will be on the light side and probably liquid, although it won't be real warm during any of this. If it's above the snow level, it'll be just barely above the snow level. And then we'll go on here and just keep going forward. Now this is what it looks like Monday at about lunchtime. That's all rain, the green. But you'll notice that in the core of this, sometimes when we get in the atmosphere, when the air is lifted pretty strongly, you get a cold core in the middle of this. That might be what you're looking at right here. It's several days out, so I would take that only with a grain of salt right now. But I do think we can count on that being a pretty good snow upstate, maybe even central Missouri. But then this backlash area here is planted right over us Tuesday morning. Now this I do expect, if this just were to hold true at face value, this would be a very blustery condition. This is a low pressure center at the surface that's very deep. So these would be strong northeast and northerly winds blowing in toward the center of that low. And then this is a pretty good area of snowfall. So yeah, everybody's going to ask, what's the snowfall potential? So we can look at that. I don't get too jacked about it when we're sitting on Thursday looking for something that's going to happen on Tuesday. But I can kind of show you what the model thinks here. Let's erase that. And this is the purple area there is anything above 6 inches. So again, to highlight Missouri, you can see Missouri, but to highlight Springfield, we're right about on that X there. So this, at least this model, tends to show some precipitation. It assumes a 10-to-1 ratio of snow. So in other words, if you had a tenth of an inch of liquid with this, you would have 1 inch of snow. Likewise, if you had an inch of rain, it would be 10 inches of snow. That's how that works. It's not always something you can count on, by the way. And I'm going to see if I can do this. I'm going to switch to the European model. I think this product is still in there. Yeah, it is. So the European model, which is just another long-range model, has that precipitation shifted quite a bit more to the north on Tuesday. So if you're doing any traveling from Springfield on north, beginning Sunday night through Monday, Tuesday, I'd be on the lookout for a snow potential. So that's going to be my update for right this second. Again, I like to get a lot closer to events before I really talk about a lot of the nitty-gritty details or actually make a prediction. I do think that tomorrow morning snow will be short-lived, light, warm ground. I do think of the two things we would be worried about on Monday into Tuesday, it would be the backlash or the back end of the storm. At this point, that would look like we would produce accumulating snow in the Ozarks probably as early as Monday night into early Tuesday morning. I'll keep watching the situation and bring you an update probably in a day or two as we get closer to this pretty much the biggest or at least the first big winter storm that will impact the Ozarks. Have a good night.